Hey everyone, I'm Laura Whitmore, founder of STP. I have been an SAT prep coach for 18 years now, and I scored a 1590 on the digital SAT. I am coming at you today with my top last minute tips for the October test, and it's going to be supercharged with English questions for you. Before we dive in, make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell below because I come out with free SAT content every single week to help you master the test. Quick question, please comment below. What modules feel tougher for you on the SAT right now, the English or the math? And what's your target score for this next test? All right, guys, let's jump into the tips. All right, my first last minute tip for the October test is eliminating two answers that are exactly the same. So if you're on a grammar question or a standard English convention question and you see a period and a semicolon, those both separate two complete sentences, so you can cross those off right away. Typically, at that point, you need to decide between a comma or no comma. Just read out loud and listen to see if you pause. So we have the haiku-like poems of TT, which present nature and dream-influenced images in crisp, spare language, have earned the Swedish poet praise from leading contemporary writers. Among them, Nigerian American essayists. Do you guys see how I paused between writers and among? I know I need a comma there, and then I'm moving on. All right, my second last minute tip for you is to look in the text when you're on a standard English convention question for an indicator of what the right answer is going to be. And in this case, when I look up at the text, I see a semicolon with an and. That tells me they're using semicolons to separate items in a list. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the semicolon. All right, guys, if you're finding this video helpful so far, show me some love, hit the like button below. Now, real quick, why am I going all over these quick grammar tips with you? You might have grammar down already and you're thinking, Laura, I already know this. The thing is, if you can get these grammar questions right as quickly as possible, it will give you more time, especially on Module 2, to solve the harder reading questions like the logically completes the text. So the goal is to be accurate with the standard English conventions and get them right in 10 to 15 seconds. And then you're banking lots of extra time for the other questions on the module. So let's look at the third last minute tip I have for you, which is when a description comes before a name. So if I look at all these answer choices and I see they're describing the chemical compound as calling it aluminum oxide, I have the description before the name of the chemical compound. There will be no commas with that. You can read right through it. So pick the one with no commas. All right, my fourth last minute tip for you deals with apostrophes questions. With apostrophes questions, you can play majority rules. This works about 85% of the time. The only times it won't work is if they give you half of one thing and half of the other. Then you'll have to default and read it and make sure you know what the right answer is. But with this one, I can definitely tell I can play majority rules. I see two phrases that are exactly the same. This one's different and this one's different. So now I'm down to C and D. And then, well, there's an it's and a theirs. So that's a 50-50 because there's also one it and one there up with A and B. But this is pretty simple because if the S is inside or on the outside of the apostrophe is on the inside, that is a possessive that is singular. It's one phrase owning something, so I need parallelism to come into play. If it's singular, I need a singular pronoun, so I'm going to pick its. All right, my fifth last minute tip for you is if you have 4 answer choices and only one of them can separate 2 complete sentences, that is probably the right answer. So when I look at these 4 answer choices, the only one that can separate 2 complete sentences is answer choice C. I'm going to pick that and move on. I will flag it to come back to later and read it and make sure I have 2 complete sentences. All right, my sixth last minute tip is if you see the dash, pick a dash. Because most of the time College Board is using 2 dashes to separate out a non-essential clause. So if I see a dash down here, I'm going to pick the dash to go in the blank because this whole part right here, the cellular organs that generate energy from light, is a non-essential clause describing more about the chloroplasts. We don't need it in there. We can read it without it, and the sentence still makes sense. So definitely go with the dash. All right, my 7th last minute tip is if you are on module 2 and you're on number 20 or number 21, chances are the answer is going to be a verb in the ing form. So in this case, let's just say this is number 20 and I look at the answer choices. I'm going to pick C because I just need an ing. I do not want a verb like intends or is or this one. I just want the ing, and let's talk about why that is. This part right here, intending his installations to make passersby keenly aware of how one's movements are affected by the physical features of one's environment. That is a whole non-essential clause describing more about Richard Serra, the subject. How do I know that? Because the verb is assembles. That's what Richard Serra is doing. So really the sentence is what I'm highlighting in orange. It's American abstract artist Richard Serra assembles large-scale steel plates into sculptures. So since the subject is way up there and the verb is way down there, everything in between is non-essential or extra information describing the subject. So you don't want a verb that would compete with the actual verb assembles. You need to pick an ing. My 8th last minute tip is if you have verb tenses as your answers, use the pronoun trick and pick the one that's different. So I'm testing for singular, plural. I would say he is, they are, they have been, and they were. So the answer is going to be A. I'll flag it to come back to later with extra time, but I'm very confident A is the right answer, and I'm going to move on. All right, guys, my 9th last minute tip for you is if you've taken any practices thus far, this week leading up to the test, I want you to go back to the ones you missed and redo them. So go back, take a walk down memory lane, revisit the questions that you struggled on and that you got wrong, and make sure you understand how to do them now so that history won't repeat itself. Because if you don't reflect and correct your past mistakes, you will repeat the same mistakes again on your test. So this is how you go from a score that you originally had to a better score. This is the most important part of your prep, is to fix those mistakes so you don't make them again. And then my last and final tip for you, tip number 10, I want you to do an easy warm-up set in the parking lot to warm up your brain. So just like you play a sport, maybe you play soccer, and before the game starts, your team jogs around the field to warm up your body. The same thing goes with taking a test. You're warming up your brain, which is a muscle. So you want to do some easy questions, nothing too crazy, nothing that's going to stress you out. What I will do is I will link in the description below to our warm-up set. It does not contain any of the answers on purpose because you should be confident in what you're picking. You can't look up the right answers during the test, but it's going to get you thinking and your brain moving ahead of the test so you'll be ready to go once you get in there. All right, guys, you got this. If you are a last minute crammer and you haven't started studying until this week and watching this video is one of the first things you're doing, type cram in the comments below. I swear you guys give me a heart attack. And one more thing, if you want to do some daily practice ahead of your test, we have an app called Preptly. It has over 1,500 unique questions in English and math, and they were designed to feel and mimic the real SAT questions that you'll see on test day. So it's really convenient. You've got all these questions in the palm of your hand. If you're on your phone a lot and you want to do just like a little bit of extra practice without doing a full-length test, I would recommend you download Preply today and get that final push, final prep in right before your test. I'm going to link up here to Preply right now. All right, guys, just know I'm cheering you on during this October test. I'll be thinking about you this Saturday. As always, we're going to do a tutor reaction video after the test, so make sure you tune in for that. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, type in the comments, pumpkin spice parabolas. I just think it's kind of cute and funny since it's fall. And until next time, guys, happy prepping.